I'll be feeding the birds, and Emma's going to be recording everything the birds that are eating. We're going to be doing some station training as well, and then we're also live streaming for Valentine's Day, and we'll be handing out some special nesting material at the very end. So we're going to get off mic, and we're going to focus on our feed, and Melissa can talk to you about the penguins and answer any questions that you may have. So enjoy, and thank you all for coming. Oops, I don't know if she's still talking to me. Yeah. Where is the, oh, there it is. I was like, how did I lose the other mat already? Kiki, you're like right in the spot. With me. Okay, Pete, vitamin herring, Ozzy, vitamin capelin, Robin, vitamin herring, Dunker, vitamin herring, Finn, get out of there. Ty, vitamin herring, Tianga, vitamin herring. You have to say it like that. Darcy, vitamin herring. Stanley, vitamin capelin. Finn, vitamin herring. Tux, vitamin herring glucosamine. Lazola, vitamin herring. Iggy. Nope. Parker. Nope. Iggy, come on. Come on. Iggy. Iggy. Stanley. That's not helpful. Okay. Okay. Iggy. Vitamin herring. Toolie. Hey. Toolie, she only steals food. Toolie, vitamin herring, Opal, vitamin herring glucosamine. Okay, so I should have, let's see, Grendel, Poppy, and Parker. Hey. Parks. Parker. Nope. Granny, come on. Kianga. Herring. Yeah, okay. Set that to the side. I know. Tie, nope. Too much. Okay, Finn, capelin, Finn, capelin, Finn, capelin, hey, Lazola, capelin, Dunker, capelin, Ozzy, capelin, Darcy, Tux, capelin, Dunker, capelin, Ozzy, capelin, Finn, capelin, nope, let's try it again. Finn, capelin, there you go, it's got a Finn the wrong way, I think. Dunker, capelin, Dunker, capelin, Kianga, offended by capelin, let's see, capelin, there you go, Darcy, nope. Stanley, you're not in the right spot. Come on. I know. Everybody's rude over there. Okay, Stanley. Stanley Capelin. Lazola. Capelin. Okay, Robin, Caitlin, no, Ozzy, Caitlin. Cool. So I think we got, yeah, it's still just Grendel and Poppy. Okay. Cool. So pretty much everyone's eaten, so I'm all yours.
So, as I start the Penguin Valentines, we have some questions coming in from our audience. Holly, someone wants to know, what is a capelin?
So they're getting two different types of fish. This one's a small one called a capelin. It's obviously a little bit smaller than the herring that we're also offering. The herring is much fattier. The capelin is much higher in protein than the herring is. So it's giving them a better balance in their diet.
Can you speak a little bit about, like, some of these penguins look different? Some of them are very black and white, some of them are more gray.
Yeah, so the ones with the gray backs are the juveniles, and they are all under 1.5 years old. When they get to be about 1.5 years old, they'll go through their first molt, and they'll replace all of their feathers, which penguins do every year. But for their first molt, the first set of feathers that they grow in will be their adult feathers.
Can you tell us a little bit about the species' survival plan and why we keep African penguins in San Francisco?
Yeah, so African penguins are a critically endangered species. They're native to the coast of South Africa and Namibia, and this is really a safety net population. And we do worry about potentially losing them in South Africa, so it's our responsibility to make sure that the birds that are in our care are as healthy as possible. And the first step in doing that is to make sure you have a genetically diverse population so it can sustain over a long time. So the species survival plan is kind of like a mix of Ancestry.com and a dating app, because we're looking at the family histories of the birds to make matches based on that, because we don't want to wind up with inbreeding and health problems as a result. So every few years, the SSP will get together and look at the population overall and then make recommendations based on that. So sometimes it means that we might get birds from other facilities, and sometimes we might send birds off to those places as well. Good job.
What kind of planning goes into matching penguins with the right partner?
So they're gonna look at the family histories, and it's kind of a big matrix, and they're paired. They're basically matched up on a scale of 1 to 6, and it's just kind of telling you the genetic rarity or how much that like gene expression exists in the population. So if you're a 1, that's probably something that we would like to focus on and see chicks from, hopefully. If you're a 6, then if those two couples are paired up or a 6, like they should not be reproducing at all, probably. They might be very closely related. So our population actually is a lot of 4s. Overall, like the population is pretty stable, and we've got a good, we're at kind of a good place. So we don't have to stress out too much about things like that. So if they kind of match up in that perfect way, then they might be recommended. It's also being balanced against different institutional needs. So we've had a much older population over the last few years. We've had a lot of success with our older birds doing quite well. But obviously you need to balance that with a little bit of a younger population. So that was one of our requests in the past round, was to try and bring in a few younger birds, and that's why we've had such a baby boom this year.
Do we have any partners here today spending Valentine's Day together?
Yep, for African penguins, it's Valentine's Day every day, because they form very, very strong pair bonds that can last a lifetime in some cases. So they spend a lot of time with their mate, and You'll hear them calling to each other if they're out of like visual range, and if they see anybody flirting or trying to pick on their mate, they'll get very angry and protective. Oh, goodness.
That is quite a call.
There's some arguing over here over who wants fish, who's in the way. Not surprisingly, one of the younger ones is involved. Yeah, there's just a lot of kerfuffles going on right now, especially with the younger ones. Grendel likes to eat his fish in weird ways, so it takes him a minute sometimes. Hey, don't peck me in the arm. Okay.
Do individual penguins have like, personality?
Yeah, absolutely. They're all very, very different, with very different needs and wants. And that's kind of the cool part about this job is understanding them as individuals. And it's also critical in their care because what's typical for one animal may not be for the other. So for example, if Ty stops eating for like a week, we've seen her do that before, right before she lays an egg, and a week seems like a really long time. But for Ty, that's normal. So we probably think that she's gonna lay an egg if we see her appetite go down first. If Dunker over there stops eating, after like a day or two, we're gonna probably take some blood because a low appetite is not his typical. So understanding those nuances is really important for their care.
How do they know that they are?
Yeah. Well, to start with, like I mentioned before, if we're bringing birds in from other facilities, they'll go through a standard day quarantine period, a standard 30-day quarantine period. And we do that with any animals coming into the facility, and this is common for most other zoos and aquariums, because you want to make sure that if they might be ill, that they're not going to pass that onto the larger colony. With penguins, fortunately, we can do a lot of medical exams before they come, so that likelihood is really small. But penguins need a buddy. They can't be by themselves. So they'll always go, they're intended to be, basically, we'll join them in quarantine, and usually that short period of time is enough to establish the bond. So Parker and Tux, our blue banded couple, were the last couple to do that. And probably within about 30 minutes, they were already in the nest box together and flirting with each other. So it's not too difficult.
We have a first grade classroom tuning in. They want to know
Nice.
why is it important that penguins eat a healthy diet?
Yeah, just like for us, right? We need to get all of our vitamins and minerals and fats and proteins. That whole mix of things is what allows us to run and jump and work and study. And for them, they need it to swim and take care of their babies, all those kinds of things. So actually the fish that we get is frozen and we thaw it out. And so sometimes you can get a little bit of loss of vitamins. So we actually supplement that back in. So this container had fish in it that today was stuffed with called a Missouri vitamin, and it's designed specifically for fish-eating birds. So their version of like a Flintstones vitamin, and that's going to make sure that they get everything that they need to be healthy.
There's a wide range of sounds. We have someone in the audience asking if they all lay their eggs around the same time of the year.
Yeah, African penguins are an interesting species because they don't migrate like some of their closer penguin relatives like Magellanic penguins. Because they don't migrate and they mostly stay in one spot, they have really broad seasons. There's no pressure for them to get it all done in one period of time. So for African penguins, it's kind of roughly half the year is breeding and roughly half the year is molting. So it's really broad, but there's doing? There's a really wide range of again, what we would call typical. So they're not too worried about schedules, African penguins. They like to do it in their own time. Keep on go, you're so hungry. Yeah, there's a lot of drama this morning. Oh, okay, yeah, so Dunker's eat. So Emma is recording everything that the birds are eating, and that's part of that important care about their diet. Like I was saying before, if one bird might not eat for a long time, that's normal. If another doesn't, but the reason we know that is because we're tracking what they're eating in the first place. So animals are pretty bad at telling you when something is wrong, and in fact, they'll go to great lengths to hide it. Because that would make them a target for predators. So it can actually be a while before you might see that something is wrong, but we might catch it on their appetite first. Are you playing with my keys? Oh no. Very flirty. Yeah, you're getting kind of a nice behind the scenes look since normally you won't hear them. All right, maybe it's time for Valentine's. So African penguins do build nests. Oh, sorry, Oz. And they like to collect nesting material. And one thing we like to give them here is car wash material because it's easy to clean and can get wet and stuff like that. But since it's Valentine's Day, they're gonna get a little bit of a special shaped nesting material. So they'll try to bring it back to their nest. I don't know if Dunker knows what direction he's going in right now. He's putting it in the food bin. But they'll take it back to their nest and line the inside of their nest. They might collect sticks or leaves, rocks, pebbles. Some of them like to collect the clam shells we feed to the sea stars in here too. But nesting material is really important for them to create the right environment for eggs to develop. So they need a specific temperature and humidity, and the nesting material will help them do that. So some are avid nesting material collectors. Others not as good, and then the juveniles don't really know what they're supposed to do with it yet, but they're interested in it just being there, but they don't quite know what to do with it. You want this? You want this? Yeah. She just wants cuddles.
Do penguins have things that they like to do for fun?
Nesting material, collecting it and putting it in their nest is probably one of their favorite things. They do like swimming and taking baths, and I see it a lot in the morning when we're cleaning especially. A lot of them will get in the water and start taking baths, and they will kind of roll around on their backs and their bellies in funny ways and use their wings to fluff up their feathers and get the water into it to clean their feathers, and it looks kind of goofy. And then sometimes they'll kind of get the penguin equivalent of zoomies and swim really fast, and they'll start porpoising where they'll actually jump out of the water a little bit. So they are pretty acrobatic in the water. Clumsy on land, but acrobatic in the water. Stanley is just... Oh, it might be the tripod. Yeah. So Darcy has a nest right here with his mate, Poppy. They actually have an artificial egg right now because they have met all of their their chick quotas, basically. So Ozzy, Iggy, and Lazola, who's over here, are all Darcy and Poppy's chicks. So they laid another egg, but we're kind of a full house here. So so they get the artificial egg, and that really helps them just kind of maintain their bond, keep practicing on how to sit on eggs. It took them a while to figure out how to do that correctly. So unlike penguins, there's no classes or books you can read on how to parent. You just have to figure it out and do it. And some are really good right off the bat, and others take a few rounds. Stanley and Bernie were that way. They took to it right away. And Finn is Stanley's chick. So they're going to the same, they're a pair and they're going to the same nest box, but they're still arguing over it.
How do you tell the penguins apart?
Yeah, they do actually all look very different. So their face shapes are different. Their beaks are differently shaped. The stripes and the spots are all different. What are you doing? But especially when you've got the big group of birds kind of coming at you, you want to make sure you're talking about exactly the right bird. So they all have individual bands. So Ty here has a green band on her left wing. It's on her left wing because she's a female. Her mate Robin also has a green band, but it's on his right wing because he's a male. What?
The first grade classroom wants to know, when they swim, can they breathe underwater?
They cannot breathe underwater, so they have to breathe air just like we do. Oh, they're gonna fight over it again. So they'll come to the surface, but they can dive pretty deep, and they only need to breathe every few minutes, so they can hold their breath a lot longer than we can.
Are there any familial ones, like your parents recognize their young or treat them any differently?
They don't seem to recognize their young or care. So if somebody's in their way, like once they're out of the nest and they've fledged and they're swimming on their own, they're like, we're done, our job is done, you're on your own, kid. So let's see. Yeah, so there's not really recognition between these guys. We've also got Grendel is actually Pete's dad. Pete's probably at the other end of the exhibit right now. And they don't seem to care about each other either. They're mostly just concerned with their mate. You know that? Stanley, you just gonna keep dropping them right here? It's okay. He's in the nest. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't run out. Texas is into it today, though. Oh. Tux's nest box is right here, and he's pretty territorial, so you might see him arguing with some of the birds over here, and that's normal. They'll get into little spats and fight with each other a lot. The green-banded couple, Robin and Ty, also try to steal their nest box all the time, so you'll see them fighting quite a lot these days. And there they go again.
How else is the penguin exhibit at the Cal Academy like their natural habitat?
Yeah, I think people are surprised to see big rocks when they come in here, but actually the African coastline is, well, it's very similar to the California coast, but pretty rocky, and there's a lot of rocky islands right off the coast too, and that's where many of their breeding colonies are, and they're actually really good climbers. So this habitat is kind of inspired by a place called Boulders Beach, which is near Cape Town. And there's huge big boulders, and it's kind of got a lagoon-like quality to it. It's part of their, basically like their national park. Yeah, like their national park system. So you actually have to pay a little fee to go in, but they take really good care of it. They have rangers who are monitoring to make sure that people aren't disrupting any of the nesting behaviors or things like that, but you can get really close to African penguins. It reminds me a lot of this habitat with the big boulders, so that's what the inspiration for this was. You just...
And I know African penguins are an endangered species. If anyone watching wanted to support these penguins in the wild, what could they do?
Yeah, so a bunch of ways. At the Academy, we actually have a African Penguin Conservation Fund. and we use it to support groups like Sandcob, which is a seabird rescue. Their main facility is near Cape Town, and we'll go every few years to help out during the busy seasons. And then we try to support them throughout the year. We've been able to send them, in addition to donations, things like incubators, because they'll also pick up eggs that have been abandoned, chicks that have been abandoned. So Emma went in 2022, I went in 2018. We try to go every few years, but the pandemic obviously impacted that. So if you come to the Academy, if you happen to go to the gift shop and make a purchase, or use one of the Penny Crusher souvenir machines, the proceeds from, if you round up a purchase at the gift shop, I should say, a little bit of change at the end will go to groups like Sandcob. You can also donate directly to Sandcob. It's an acronym and there's a lot of letters in it. Let's see if I can get it right. SANCCOB? Yeah. So you just Google that, or African penguin rehabilitation, you'll find Sandcob's website. I actually think that that you can adopt a penguin right now for Valentine's Day to support them. So we really encourage people to do that, because groups in South Africa are already doing fantastic work to save these birds and care for the ones that are still there, and try to allow their population to come back. And so we really want to support the groups that are there doing that work.
Do some of these Valentines have writing on them?
Actually, I happen to have one that has writing. Some of them do. I grabbed most of the blank ones because there were a lot of weird messages on some of them. But this one says, "We love you, Marianne." So it's a special one for today. And Ozzy's not going to know what to do with it, but wants to check it out.
Yeah, what age should penguin group read?
Well, it doesn't seem like ever. Especially the young ones. They definitely have no idea what's on any of that. But the adults are pretty much just fixated on it's a thing that I can collect and take back to my box. What? You want to hurt? You just want my keys. Tux is not going to be able to get into his nest box soon. This is Tuli. She's one of our youngest adults.